From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie Frankenstein, released in 2025, starring Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi, with Mia Goth, and Christopher Waltz. The synopsis is Dr. Victor Frankenstein, a brilliant but egotistical scientist, brings a creature to life in a monstrous experiment that ultimately leads to his own undoing. Story. This idea began as a book from Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, in 1818. She wrote the story when she was 18, and it was initially published anonymously when she was 20. The book was finally credited to her in the second edition a year later. 110 years later, we got the incredible 1931 film starring Boris Karloff playing the iconic creature and Colin Clive playing Dr. Frankenstein. We all remember with affection Colin screaming out in the movie, "It's alive!" And there are many versions of the story adapted throughout the years, but this 2025 version was heavily influenced by the Bernie Wrightson 1983 Marvel comic books book. He spent 7 years drawing over 60 detailed pen and ink illustrations based on the actual book's description. Guillermo del Toro considered the possibility of working on Frankenstein as his dream project and was initially in development with Universal Pictures, featuring Doug Jones as the creature and Bernie Wrightson creating the monster's design. Sadly, it was shelved in order for Universal to launch its short-lived Dark Universe in 2017. Unfortunately, it was the same year that Wrightson died, and that right there could have been the end of Guillermo's dream. Many directors have multiple productions in the works or on the shelf. And one project that was on the shelf at the time was one that began in 2008. It was the stop motion adaptation of Pinocchio. In 2017, Del Toro was finally ready to make it, but he needed $35 million to begin production. Sadly, the project was canceled because no studios were willing to finance it. In stepped Netflix in October 2018, reviving the project since he was already working with them on the TV series Troll Hunters Tales of Arcadia from 2016 to 2018. It began a lasting partnership with Netflix to develop films and TV series, which also included Three Below, Tales of Arcadia from 2018 to 2019, Wizards, Tales of Arcadia 2020, the Oscar-winning Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio in 2022, and the anthology series Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities in 2022 as well. In 2023, Guillermo revived the Frankenstein project and filmed from February to September in 2024. It's the classic tale of Frankenstein, somewhat faithful to the book, with an incredibly unique take from the iconic imagery we're used to. It beautifully teases you with theoretical questions while haunting you with the Gothic grandeur of the Victorian age. Pacing. At 2 hours and 29 minutes, it's long, but I actually never cared. It's juicy at every Gothic drenched moment. Some people didn't like the tale being split into two sections. I felt it worked because it didn't seem as if they were just retelling the same movie from a different point of view, but rather just finishing where the last story ended. If anything, it intrigued me and kept me very much glued in. And I wondered, where did the time go? The challenge. The challenge in this story is a little complicated, but we can say that most of the challenge is derived from one person in the story, Victor Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein would typically be the protagonist in this film, but he's the cause of every horrible thing that happens in the story. He's a tormented soul trying to defy death, or if you could say, he wants to create life. But the driving reason for his infatuation with his science stems from his complicated and cold relationship with his father, who, in spite of his harsh treatment, gave Victor the education to excel as a physician. The result is a man so obsessed with his success that he cannot fathom that he can fail, which leads him to discard his creation prematurely. His obsession is with bringing life into the world. Inspired by his mother's love, the film represents her memory along with the color red and the very meaning of life itself. When she dies, red represents her memory once again, but also life or cheating death, which is what Victor is hoping to accomplish. And this becomes his obsession, and he is indeed successful in a glorious series of struggles. Unfortunately, he didn't plan on his experiment producing someone he would have to raise like a son. And it's almost as if he couldn't see past the moment of his success. Okay, once you're successful, what do you do now? And that was his dilemma. And could you really blame Victor Frankenstein? Because we kind of sees shadows of his abuse from his father repeating in his cruel treatment of what he considers no more than an experiment, like a plaything. He doesn't realize that his creation is not just alive, but has feelings and needs a father's love, nurturing, guidance, patience, devotion, a moral code, education, and trust. As rotten as Victor's father was, at least he gave Victor an education. Victor starts out trying, but he has no patience for fatherhood and treats his creation like a beast, putting him in chains and speaking to him with utter disdain, the most vile disdain from his lips. This also reminds me of Blade Runner 1982, Roy Batty seeking warmth and emotional understanding from his creator, Eldon Tyrell. Tyrell could only offer him empty praise and cold reality. It was disastrous for him, too. The secondary force of antagonism comes from Henrik Harlander, an arms manufacturer financing Victor's dreams. However, secretly, he has been giving Victor anything he wants for his own preservation. As we learn that he has a deteriorating disease, he is not necessarily a bad guy, but his interest is mainly selfish and not for the betterment of humanity. At least Victor believes that he is doing something for good. He barely has a mindset to know just how. This is circling Victor again as the main antagonist or challenge in the film. Henrik, his niece Elizabeth, and Victor's brother are all trying to help him reach his goals, but they are victims of his egotistical hubris. His only care for others is how much they can help him reach his goal. Or at some point, if he desire, like there's a small moment in the film where he actually desires Elizabeth. And that was also a selfish desire, knowing that she was the fiance of his own brother. And his goals, whatever they are, they can change at his whim from moment to moment. So, one moment it is saving mankind from death, or it is to serve his own individual desires. Empathy. The creature gets most of the empathy in this story simply because we realize that he is not evil and his life is exceptionally difficult. The film builds empathy through the creature's interactions with the natural world. We see his tenderness with animals and his instinctive love of living things. It's so beautiful to see his wonder. I speak of tenderness and love, but the creature looks fierce and dangerous, which he also is when provoked. It seems he's almost always provoked. It makes his capacity for violence self defense, activated by a world that hates his existence. Again, through the film, you see how absolutely good hearted the creature is. He only kills as a response to being treated as a monster. And oh boy, The monster is incredibly powerful. I mean, he could just take you apart by flinging his hand. He's super strong, and you get a sense of it by the end that we've only seen a tiny portion of how powerful he truly is. Among his strengths, he also has the remarkable ability to heal, a lot like the Marvel superhero Wolverine. So this movie really comes off like a little gothic superhero movie, to be honest, without the flash and the pomp. His power is massive when he puts it to use, but you know that he would never use it for evil. In fact, that's it. He seems like a lonely superhero without a world to save. So there's much loneliness expressed in this movie, the feeling of longing for connection with other people, other beings like animals and insects. It breaks your heart to see that ultimately he is alone in this world. There's a part of the film where he hopes he's dead, but he can't die. And that too is a part of his loneliness curse. In a perfect world, Victor Frankenstein would have been his guide through the world, discovering these things together. It sort of starts out that way. However, Victor's interest in the creature ends as soon as he faces the challenge of being a teacher. The creature's fathering comes in the form of a blind man who adopts him and teaches him how to read and takes the utmost patience with him. It's one of the moments I felt so happy for the creature. He receives kindness and tenderness when he meets Elizabeth, the niece of Henrik Harlander. The story doesn't portray it as a romantic love as much as the empathetic human touch. There is definitely an attraction, but it feels pure and innocent. Elizabeth is highly educated and uniquely attracted to the macabre. Yeah, I believe that is also why even Victor takes a detour to pursue spending time with her for a short time. I also believe that she deeply cared for the creature. She saw in the creature what Victor refuses to see, a soul deserving dignity and love. The technical aspects. The technical achievement of this film is breathtaking. Principal photography ran primarily out of Toronto's Pinewood Studios, with crucial additional filming across Scotland and England. Guillermo del Toro said, I want real sets. I don't want digital. I don't want AI. I don't want simulation. I want old fashioned craftsmanship. People painting, building, hammering, plastering. He got it, and it looked incredible. Every set, every prop is so detailed and has this incredible Victorian styling, and it's amazing. It looks wonderful on screen. I just want to crawl in there and hang out in that space. Cinematographer Dan Lostinson photographed the entire production with beauty. His lighting transforming even difficult locations into something richly gothic. VFX supervisor Dennis Barati delivered over 1,200 effect shots that were entirely invisible. That is the beauty of the craft. It should look like live footage and not a VFX shot. Fantastic work all around. The creature, played by Jacob Elordi, was composed of 42 separate prosthetic appliances, requiring 10 hours of daily makeup by creature designer Mike Hill. Incredible. The design of the creature was so unique, veering away from the traditional visual for Frankenstein's monster with the flat head and the bolts at the neck, but it looked like a combination of pieces mapped together on the surface. It created a fascination just looking at him, to try to figure out what parts could have come from the same source, like an interesting map of humanity right on his body. The costumes, the style, the vision, amazing. This was an award winning production. At the 98th Academy Awards, the film won Best Costume Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and Best Production Design. The styling created for Elizabeth was especially high fashion for the age, and it visually conveyed her beauty, youth, innocence, and wealth. The score was composed by Alexandre Desplat, who brought a deeply lyrical, emotional approach, resisting horror convention, saying, I'm not trying to write horror music. He created an awe inspiring score full of drama and romantic melodies. And most of all, it took you away into the world of Frankenstein. It was absolutely beautiful work. Performances. Oscar Isaac, I believe, is one of the most underrated actors of our time. Oscar Isaac was incredible in this movie. Extremely, extremely. The fact that he wasn't even considered for awards for this particular movie is a shame. And ask yourself, when is he not amazing on screen? Especially when given the proper material to excel. His performance as Victor Frankenstein is viciously dedicated to portraying a man desperately obsessed. If it is an obsession with creating life or revenge, whatever it is, he has that wild look in his eyes without care of vanity. And that's what makes his acting in this so raw, so authentic, and really pulls you into the story. He is fully embedded into the character. He can switch it on and off too to show charm, depression, or fascination within half a second. He is just simply wonderful in this. Jacob Elordi is especially enchanting in this. His eyes are filled with wonder of a child, which moves you to want to give him a big hug. That type of acting immerses the audience into the storytelling and to the point where you want to interact with it. And so he did a fantastic job doing that. His scenes with Oscar Isaac, with Mia Goth, amazing work. He has such great chemistry with everybody on screen. And it's especially powerful. I loved it. Every minute of seeing him play the creature. And maybe I'm going on and on too long about his performance, but I thought it was so engrossing that I completely got lost in the film to the point of deeply weeping by the end. I mean, I am a crybaby, but this one was really like, oh, especially intense. And I wasn't the only one who noticed his work because he received a Golden Globe nomination, his first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, and a Critics' Choice Award win and a BAFTA nomination. And Mia Goth was absolutely amazing in this. And she's usually she's a solid actress, pretty good in everything she does. As Elizabeth, she showed this rare fascination that didn't seem contrived. She was vulnerable without betraying the strength of the character's will in a beautiful combination of acting techniques. I only wish she was in the movie just a little more. She stood out in a wonderful way. Christopher Waltz as Henrik Harlander creates a likable character with something a little off about him. You know, that you raise an eyebrow and you're like, what's going on with you over there? And that is the subtlety of his acting. It's enough to get your attention, but not throw you out of the film. I just love his performances, and he's another person who is highly underrated, in my opinion. I just wished he too was more in the film, actually, but I suppose the film wasn't going to be 3 hours long. My enjoyment. I was actually surprised by the end of the movie. The lives of Victor and the creature splits, then converges with nearly everyone dying. It's just everyone dies. And then there's a back and forth revenge chase, leaving Victor fatally injured on a tanker. He tells the story to the captain, and the creature pursues. Then finally, the creature gets a chance to tell his story to the captain, which is one of my favorite moments of the movie, when he's just like, "Let me tell you my side of the story." And at the end, there's a beautiful moment where Victor and the creature actually finally have a progressive conversation that perhaps they should have had ages ago and probably could have saved the lives of many. Victor finally apologizes. It's simple, but so touching. It's so much so that I wept all the way through the end. Not a dry eye in my house. Have you ever been wronged? This ending is sure to hit a nerve with you. It's the apology or the sense of satisfaction you wish you had if somebody has done you wrong. It's so satisfying and healing, and that was an incredible way to end the story. The film was released in select theaters on October 17, 2025, before its global Netflix debut on November 7th, 2025. At first, the buzz grew slowly, and then through word of mouth, it gained traction and became an instant cult classic. Both the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute named it one of the 10 best films of 2025, and it's been generally liked by both critics and audiences alike. The best part about it is that there's a fandom creating dolls, art, and fan fiction for the movie with a particular love for the creature. And I think it's wonderful. This is a true sign that this project will endure over time. This film was a complete shock to me and surprise. It was, I was sure I was going to like it by the trailers and the artwork and everything that was coming out, but I had no idea that I was going to love it as much as I do. I'm a huge fan now. And one of the key reasons I loved this was for the story structure, the separation of the stories, Victor Frankenstein's version and the creature story. When the creature finally gets to speak in the film, it expands upon its most beautiful phase. And I felt like I felt so very connected to it. It really touched my heart. And the end was one of the best payoffs in a movie I've seen in a long time. Ultimately, this beautiful offering by Guillermo del Toro is not just a monster movie, but this is a very human story. My rating is a 9.8. That sums up my review. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up, share the video, make sure you're subscribed for my next upload or live. And YouTube is so nice that they're going to suggest a video for you to watch. Please give it a watch. And remember to stay retro and stay nerdy.